We've got some breaking news to bring you from the office of the Gauteng Premier, Panyaza Lesufi. A statement coming in the last 10 or 15 minutes or so confirming the Premier's decision to suspend the Community Safety Department's HOD as well as the CFO following forensic audits. It says here that Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi has suspended the HOD, that's the head of department by the way, Ms. Nontsikelelo Sisulu, and the Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Mduduzi Malope. This is from the Gauteng Department of Community Safety with immediate effect. So that's from the 5th of August. The suspensions, according to the Office of the Premier, follow the conclusion of a forensic investigation by the Provincial Forensic Audit Unit with the office or within the office of Premier Lesufi, which uncovered financial irregularities in the department. This then prompted the Premier to intervene to safeguard, according to the provincial government, the department's integrity. And the case, they say, is part of the 39 forensic investigation reports that Premier Lesufi has made publicly available. He held a briefing, you might recall, on Sunday, where he lamented his inability to basically sack some of these HODs almost immediately when there were findings of wrongdoing. So now, just if you're coming in now, the breaking news is that Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi has suspended both the head of department as well as the CFO at the Gauteng Department of Community Safety with immediate effect. Their names are Nontsikelelo Sisulu as well as Mduduzi Malope, respectively. Well, let's stay in Gauteng because the Education Department has confirmed today that more than 600,000 successful applications have now been recorded on the online registration or admissions system for grades 1 and 8. That's for admission for 2026. Let's bring in the Gauteng Department of Education spokesperson, Steve Mabona, who's with us here in studio. Steve, good to see you. So it's been, 2 weeks since the portal opened? More than 500,000 applications now received. What do you believe is driving this much faster, what appears to be a much faster uptake compared to previous years?
Now, good evening and to all our viewers. It's the advocacy work that we do. We've interacted with all our stakeholders. They are assisting us to spread the message and more so, to put an emphasis that when you apply outside the application period, you might find yourself with schools that are very far from you, and because by then schools will be full. So we want to accommodate everyone now during this application period. And when we close on the 29th of August, we will then be focusing on the placement, which we will start to do on the 16th of October.
And you describe in your statement the successful applications, more than 600,000, as a remarkable feat. Am I right then in my characterization earlier that this is more than what you would have received around the same period in previous years?
Definitely, this is more, and we are pleading to parents to access the system. We want to be at probably, if we can be at around 800,000 applications. We know that when you look at the spaces that are available, we have just over 400,000 spaces to accommodate our learners. So we will be satisfied that we will be in a position to plan ahead on where we are pressured. We need to give schools mobile units and give them more classrooms and open the schools that we are finalizing to build.
And are you seeing a clear trend at this stage in terms of areas where you're receiving the highest volumes of applications?
Yes, our high pressure areas is your Tshwane West in the Acacia area, Centurion, that's where we have high numbers. Midrand, there's a lot of development in Midrand, but there's lesser schools. And in Ekurhuleni, the Kempton Park area, there's quite a sizable number of people there. And the far Ekurhuleni, Springs area, there's developments there. And in the Johannesburg South, there's a high number of applications that are coming from that side. And when you look at the Johannesburg North, the Cosmo area, that's where there's a lot of people in Cosmo City. But we will be opening a primary school that is going to alleviate pressure in the Cosmo City area.
And how does that bode then, these plans to build more schools, but the higher volumes of people in areas like Cosmo City, Midrand, with the advice that you've given to parents, and you repeated this tonight, that in the most ideal situation, they should apply to a minimum of 3 schools within their designated zones, maximum of 5. But I would imagine at this stage, not everyone has that option in their zone. Am I wrong?
No, you are correct. That's why the mobile schools in a form of satellite school that we are introducing, we just want to encourage parents to take those. I mean, if I were to make an example, we had a school in North Riding where it was half empty because parents don't want to take their children there because it's a mobile unit. Mm-hmm. And we introduced that school to alleviate pressure for us. So, I mean, we will plead to parents to say, let's take the schools, because a school that you will probably want, it's full. Because we had quite a number of people who cannot afford to be in the private school, independent schools. They are coming to us. So that's why we are so pressured.
But it's a problem, right? Because you mentioned, for example, parents who might not be impressed with the level of infrastructure at a mobile school. But there are also concerns, especially in the public schooling system, about the lack of sufficient options in terms of quality education. The more crowded a classroom is, for instance, we know that affects on the quality of education. Parents obviously want their children to go to a school where they'll be given the highest level of attention, the highest quality of teaching. How do we get to a point where you're able to guarantee that for everyone who relies on the system? Because many of them can't go elsewhere. They don't have a private option.
Yeah, but we also need to look at the quality of education that we receive in those schools. I mean, look at the improvements that we made in the townships. Mm. Townships are carrying us in terms of our grade 12 performance. They are performing highly. Your former Model C schools are not giving us what we expect from them. They're giving us around 70, 80%, some they're giving us 90. They're not even giving us 100.
Do you mean class passes or quality?
Yeah, quality and your grade 12 results. And that's where parents will want to take their children to. So we are saying, let's work together and make sure that we improve the quality of, the education that we receive in all our schools in our areas. If there's ill discipline in a school, we need to work together as parents to make sure that we instill discipline in our children, because those will be our children.
And while I have you, there was a troubling incident yesterday that required the department's attention, an incident of bullying, where a community basically said enough is enough and brought schooling to a standstill in the province. Where are we in terms of that? Because bullying appears to be on the rise, and perhaps we're also hearing more about it because now it's being recorded, which makes the trauma for the victim even worse.
Yes, definitely. I mean, quite a sad incident that occurred there, which ended up a child being hospitalized. Fortunately, the child was released on Friday. We have taken action. We have removed 3 officials from the school, allegedly who did not do anything when this matter was reported to them. And also we've identified more schools. That is about 7 schools where children are saying there's an element of bullying. So we will be visiting all those schools. We have a partnership with our sister department, social development. We need to educate and make children, comfortable to be in a position to report. Also, when there's no, action that is taken at the school, what is it that they need to do so that we can then intervene as quick as possible, so that it's not late where children are assaulted and they end up in hospital.
And lastly, let's end where we started on the issue of the admissions. How much more time do parents have to get these in? Because I know in January you're going to be in here and we're going to be talking to you about angry parents who've missed the deadline, sometimes because they thought they had more time than what's available.
We'll be making a lot of noise on our social media platforms. We'll be doing a countdown. We are closing on the 29th of August. So parents need to make sure that they log in to GDE admissions.
So they've got the next month, ne?
It's weeks.
I'm saying they've got about a month to do it.
3 weeks. 3 weeks, which is not enough. They need to go into the system and apply now.
Okay. Steve Mabona, spokesperson for the Gauteng Education Department. You don't have a month, he says. You've got 3 weeks to be exact. So if you've got a child who's going either to grade 1 or grade 8, remember in Gauteng you have to go to the online admissions portal to submit your application there. The advice is still that you should at least select 3, minimum 3 schools. 5 is the maximum, so that wherever your child is eventually placed, you're able to be accommodated within the relevant zones that are used often for the placement of children. Much more of the day's news coming up when the Full View continues.